It's about 8 years ago now, as I first got interested in art and painting and bought my very first brushes and colors. I watched some simple tutorials on YouTube and started to learn myself and explore to find my own way of painting. It took me some years to really find my own style, but no matter what technique or colors I've been using during these years, my one and only inspiration has always been nature. I live in this beautiful place surrounded by endless forests and lakes in the north of Sweden, and it's impossible not to feel inspired by the beauty around me. No matter if I create music, or videos, or photography, or paintings, nature is always the heart in everything I do. And the constant changing seasons is reflected in my paintings. Last year, as I was picking blueberries in the forest, I got an idea to try to make my own paint out of the blueberries. And as I tried it out, I really liked it, and I quickly got curious and began to explore more of the natural pigments around me and learn to make paint out of them. I found a lot of beautiful pigments from the fire stoves that keeps our house warm in the winter. I used charcoal to get black pigment. And from the ashes, I could get many beautiful tones of grey and brown. And stones was also a great source to all different kinds of pigments. And mud and dirt and sand also turned into beautiful colors. It felt like a whole new door opened up in front of me, and I fell in love with making my own paint. It didn't matter that it suddenly took me way more time to finish a painting. The whole process of picking the materials and then preparing the pigments made it all feel more meaningful, and it gave my paintings a whole new dimension. I love to feel the texture of the natural materials. And when I look on a finished painting, I know exactly the story of every single pigment, where I picked them and how they ended up on the canvas. So now I'm not only inspired by nature when I paint, but nature has become part of my paintings, and I really love that. Ever since I started making my own paint out of natural materials and shared it on my vlogs and videos on YouTube, I've got tons of questions from people asking how I make paint out of these natural pigments. So I thought I would share step by step the whole process of how I make my own paint. And remember, when it comes to creativity, I think that the best way to create art is not to be limited to one way of doing something. I think that the key is to be playful and curious and try new things and not get stuck in how we are supposed to do something or how other people do it. Be free and have fun and play around and see what happens and what works for you. Every time I paint, I see it as an experiment, because I never know how the result is going to be. Absorb what inspires you and then let yourself bloom in your own unique way. So, as an example for how I make my paint, I will use this yellow rusty sand from my garden. I will step by step show you how I turn it from this raw material to this paint on the canvas. First of all, when you work with materials like sand or stones, it's really important to wear a mask so you don't inhale all the dust and smoke. I begin by using a strainer to get out all the stones or bigger pieces. I usually do this a couple of times until I use the strainer with the finest dimensions to really get the sand as soft and clean as possible. And then it's time to use a mortar. Don't add too much sand at once, it will only make it harder. I always spend a lot of time at this step, since the quality of the pigment will be much better the smaller pieces you get, and it will also be much easier to paint with. Try to make it as much as a powder as possible. I then put the pigment into a jar, and that's how I keep all my pigments that are ready to be used for paint. Then it's time for the step to make this sand into paint, and it's very simple. I put some pigment into a cup and then I add some water. Then I need to add some kind of a binder to give it a thicker consistency and to make it get stuck to the canvas so it doesn't fall off as the pigment dries. And there are many ways you can do that. It all depends on what painting technique you use. I have always painted with acrylic colors and I love to paint in different layers, so I just add an acrylic medium, for example pouring medium or glazing medium. The very first time I tried to make my own paint, I just took what I had at home. And it's been working great so far, so I have just continued with that. And then it's ready to paint with. And this is the basic process that I use for all the pigments. And I also often mix different pigments with each other to create new colors and tones. It's always interesting to see how they react with each other. And I sometimes mix these natural pigments together with acrylic colors to create, for example, blue, since I have not yet been able to find a blue pigment where I live. In the beginning I used blueberries, but after some experience I found out that the pigments from example plants or berries fades out after a while and turn into brown. And to make white pigment, I often mix white quartz stones with limestones and then some white acrylic to make it more strong and visible. Every time I paint, I learn something new, and I really look forward to keep exploring ways of using natural pigments for my paintings. I think it's something very fascinating about using pigments that I can find here at my home. And it feels beautiful to be part of the whole process when making my paint. And I really hope that this could give you some inspiration to try it out yourself. And remember, creativity is meant to be free. Just let it flow. It's February now, and we are halfway through the winter. It's only 3 months to go until all the snow melts and the spring arrives in the month of May. Thinking about spring makes me very happy. It gives me energy to know that soon enough everything will come to life again. But now it's February and we are still in the heart of winter. But this other half of the winter is always a bit easier, because for every day that passes by, the sun rises higher on the sky and we get more and more daylight for each day. Our life right now is pretty much the same as it's been the last months. We are still working a lot behind the scenes with our project of making a new website and webshop for our new jewelry collection and for my paintings and photo prints and all the things that we create. We have been working on this for a year now, and we have gone through many mistakes on the way, but we have learned a lot, and it's been a fun process to build up our very own company. You look a little tired today, Nanok. Yeah, it's Sunday. You shouldn't need to work today, right? So my husband Johan have been spending most of his time in the smithy with the jewelry making, to keep up with the custom orders and the very few designs that we have been selling this year. Just enough to keep it running while we build up our new webshop.
Det är klart.
Okay.
Då fixar jag kedja och...
I'm gonna write a birthday card to Rachel. Happy birthday to you. Ow. We have some good news. For us it's good news. We have this new label printer, which means that it will be easier for us now to print out the labels. We don't have to cut and tape by hand. We can just print it out. I will show you. Let's see here. Oh my god. This is awesome! Wow. That is amazing. new shoe for me! And my mom, Anita, has been focusing a lot on creating our new web shop, which is something really time-consuming since we want a really good site this time that can handle orders from all over the world to make it easier for both us and our customers.
Ja. För annars tror jag att det här går att fixa, att du får ner det. Alltså...
I am really glad that my mom knows computer programming and web development. My brother Philip has also been very involved in this, and we have all been working hard to make reality of our ideas and to make our own business a little easier to handle. Another thing we've been working on is our new smithy and workroom for the jewelry. When we moved to our new house in May last year, we wanted to move our jewelry business into the beautiful old barn that is next to our house. But before we could do that, it needed a lot of renovations. After many months of renovations and waiting, we are almost done with our new workroom. So hopefully this month we will be able to move our jewelry business from our living room in our old house to this new place at our beautiful homestead. Nano, do you want to go out? You want to run in the forest? Yeah, let's do it! And I have been spending a lot of time in here lately, in my painting studio. I have finally got inspiration to paint again. If you've been watching my vlogs for a while, you might know that my studio was trashed by a man back in September, and some of my paintings were destroyed. And after that, I just haven't felt any inspiration to paint again. Until now. I've spent all my spare time in here lately. And it feels so good to be back again and continue experimenting with making my own paint from natural pigments. I've been painting a lot with ashes and charcoal lately. Now during the winter we make fires in the stoves every day to keep our house warm, and therefore we get a lot of ashes and charcoal, and they make beautiful pigments. I just love to think about that these grey, black and brown colors made from the ashes and the charcoal actually kept our house warm before they got a new life and turned into art. And before the snow came, I made sure to pick some beautiful sand and dirt and stones that I could use as pigments now during the winter. So I look forward to spend many more nights in here now. Now, my sweet friends, you know a little more about what's going on in my world right now. I want to thank you with all my heart for watching my videos and following my work and my life here in the woods in the north of Sweden. I so much look forward this new year now and to share the journey with all of you. I see you soon again. The summer is coming to an end. It's already late August. And I can really feel how autumn is coming closer for every day that goes by. But I think the end of the summer is a wonderful time. Sometimes even more wonderful than the summer itself. It's still green and warm outside, but the air feels more clean and fresh. And the mosquitoes have finally left us alone. Almost. But, of course, it's getting darker again. No more bright nights or midnight sun. But in some strange way, the darkness always feels so welcoming in the autumn. So comfortable and calming. I think that the light in the summer focuses more on the energy outwards, like people, social life, activities, movement, and the physical world. And then, as the autumn and the darkness arrives, it feels like the focus shifts more into our inner world, and it opens up space for feelings, reflections, and creativity. A time to nurture our soul. I really love the constant changing seasons that we have here. It makes every month feel new and unknown. And it's a good reminder that nothing really lasts forever. And I guess that's the beauty of it. Another good thing about August is that the forest is full of berries. The blueberries is my favorite. And the lingonberries just started getting ripe as well. And in our garden we have lots of raspberries, both yellow and red. And we have black currant, which is also a huge favorite of mine, and red currant. And we also have gooseberries, which is very new to me, but they taste really good. I want to make sure to pick enough berries for the whole winter. I think that eating berries every day during the winter can help to stay strong and healthy. And this year, picking lots of blueberries is more important than ever, since I found a new way of using them, more than to just eat or drink them. I will tell you more about that in a minute. Picking berries is also strongly connected to memories from my childhood. Every summer when we came here to Grundtjärn, we picked lots of berries. We were out all day, and it was such a special feeling to come home in the evening and make homemade berry jam. And being out in the forest like this makes me think so much of my grandparents and how much I miss them. They grew up and lived here, and they have probably been walking in the exact same spots once in a time, picking berries. That always happens in the autumn, as you start making fires for the first time after the summer. When the pipe is cold, it takes some time before the smoke flows the right way. But after a while, the fire was perfect. This is usually what I do with most of the berries that I pick. I use this thing called saftmaja to steam the berries into a juice. And I add no sugar, it's only the berries and water. And I tell you, it smells heavenly in the kitchen while doing this. When the juice is done, I usually put it in small bottles to keep in the freezer. In that way, I can just take out a bottle to unfreeze whenever I need some berry juice. As I told you earlier, I found a new way of using the blueberries more than to just drink it. I make paint out of it. I first got the idea earlier this summer, as I was out with Johan looking for stones in the forest just behind our house. I found this yellow, rusty sand, and I was thinking, what if I could make my own paint out of this beautiful sand? And about 3 weeks ago, I was out with my mom picking blueberries. And as I saw the blue color from the berries on my fingers, I once again got the thought about making paint from the natural pigment. I just didn't really know how to make it into a paint with pigments that would last even as it dries. But one night in my studio, I experimented with these natural pigments from the blueberries and the sand, and made my very own paint out of it. And I was completely mesmerized. I immediately started thinking about other ways of finding beautiful colors in the nature around me. I looked for stones with different colors in our garden. And then I bought this stone crushing machine to make the stones into sand. And I took carbon from the fire to make black pigment, and ashes to get grey and brown. It didn't matter that making my own paint from nature took me so much time. Picking the berries, finding the stones, and preparing the paint, I fell in love with the whole process. My absolute favorite tea is a mix of pine needles and chaga mushroom, and I've been drinking it a lot during this winter. It's really healthy and it's really easy to make, and the best thing of all is that it tastes like you drink the forest. I think that the combination of pine tree and the chaga from the birch tree makes it taste just like how it smells in a northern forest, like the ones where I live. So in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I do and what ingredients you need to make this wonderful forest tea. Actually, this tea is best to do during the winter because that's when the pine trees contains most C vitamins. But honestly, I drink this tea mostly because of the wonderful taste. So first of all, you need to pick some fresh pine needles, but make sure to look up what kind of pine trees you have where you live, because there are some pine trees that are toxic. I think the taste gets even better if you also pick needles from fir trees, even if pine needles contain more C vitamins. Then you cut the pine needles into smaller pieces, and you can use a knife or a scissor. And then pour up some water to put on the stove. Pour all the pine needles in the water. And remember to not heat up the water too much. Some vitamins get lost in boiling water. I usually keep it under 70 Celsius degrees. And then it's time to add some chaga powder. Chaga is a mushroom that mainly grows on birches in countries with colder climate. For hundreds of years it's been used as a medicine to boost immune defense and health. It contains lots of antioxidants and has a very earthy taste. It can be really hard to find a chaga mushroom in the forest, but you can easily buy chaga powder in any healthcare store. I also like to add some ginger for the taste. I usually keep the water heated for about 15 to 20 minutes to really get out the best taste. Filter the water to get it clean from all the pine needles. And then it's ready to be poured up in cups. And the last thing I do is to add some honey to get some sweetness to the tea. And then enjoy a cup of wonderful forest tea. Birch sap is the liquid that flows through the birch trees in the spring. It looks clear like water, and it has a very sweet and fresh taste. Here in Sweden, it's been used for hundreds of years because of its health benefits. And back in time they said, "Dricka märg i benen," which means, drink marrow into the bones. Drinking birch sap was a way of regaining energy after a long winter. And it's really true. Birch sap contains lots of good vitamins and minerals. And for me, it's now a tradition to tap birch sap every spring. And I drink it almost every day during the month of May. That is actually one of the most wonderful things I know about spring. To collect a full bottle of birch sap in the evenings and have a first sip of it under the trees while listening to all the songs of the birds. In this video, I will show you step by step how to tap birch sap. But remember, if you don't have your own garden or land with birch trees, make sure to ask the owner of the land for permission before you tap from a tree. And tapping birch sap is something that is only done about 3 to 4 weeks during the early spring, from the time the frozen ground has melted until the leaves of the birch tree starts to bloom out. Depending on where you live, it's usually sometime between March and the end of May. You can tap birch sap in 2 different ways. And the first way I'm going to show you is really simple and fast, but it doesn't give you that much birch sap. But it's perfect if you just want to try it out really quick. Just cut off a branch from a birch tree. And then tie a bottle over it and make sure to tie it hard enough so it won't fall down from the weight of the sap. Leave the bottle for a few hours and hopefully it will be full when you get back. The other way I'm going to show you is how I usually do, because it's more effective and it gives you much more birch sap. But it's important to do it the right way so you don't hurt the tree. The first step is to drill a small hole into the tree that goes slightly upwards, about 2 to 3 centimeters into the tree. Then put in a pipe or a straw in the same size as the hole. And you will immediately notice if it works. Tie a bottle or a can around the tree and make sure it's really stuck and can carry the weight when it's full. Then leave it for a few hours. I usually do it before I go to sleep, so I have fresh birch sap in the mornings. When you arrive the next time, the can should be full. Usually you can tap several liters from a tree, but if you feel done tapping from the tree, the most important part is to plug the hole. If you don't do that correctly, the tree will continue to bleed and it can cause infections. The best way is to carve a stick that is a little bit bigger than the hole, and then put it in with the help of a hammer. Make sure to check that it's really tight so no sap are coming out. Pour the birch sap into a bottle, and if you keep it in the fridge, it can last for about 3 to 5 days. You can also put it in the freezer if you want to enjoy it later, but I have actually never tried that. I think it's something beautiful with only drinking it now in the spring. The spring came unusually early this year, because we have this one thing that happens every year that comes as a true sign that winter is finally letting go and spring is arriving. I call it vårfloden in Swedish, which means the river of spring. As the snow begins to melt really quickly, it forms into a river that goes straight through the village. And it only lasts for a couple of days, or up to a week or 2, depending on how much snow we have. Usually this happens around the end of April, but this year it came a whole month early. And of course, I couldn't be happier. Every year when this happens, I feel this undescribable joy and happiness. It's like the highlight of the spring to me. And I can spend hours outside by the river. I like to imagine that I help melting the snow and that I help the water to flow better. And it's just so wonderful to hear the sound of the water outside our house in the evenings. It really feels like everything comes to life again, both in nature, but also in myself. It's like it's been in a deep sleep for a long time. And now I wake up and it's like I feel everything so intense. Yeah, it just feels like I'm in love with life, with nature and everything around me. It's just such a beautiful, wonderful feeling. And it feels the same every spring. Well, it actually feels even more intense for every new spring that I get to experience. It's like I just came to this earth, And I feel this deep wonder for the beauty around me, and a deep gratitude for being alive. But of course, April is the most dirty and muddy time of the year. And it's actually not so beautiful outside at this time. And if you have a dog, it's gonna get so dirty inside after every walk. But even if it looks like a mess outside, it feels beautiful. It just feels so special to finally see the ground and the grass and the earth again after so many months with snow. And to just touch the soil again. I've missed it so much. So this week, apart from helping the snow to melt, I've also spent most of the time in the smithy with Johan. As many of you know, we have been working very much with the jewelry making lately. It's been long days and long nights, and it's definitely been challenging for us both to go through so much work. Sometimes it just felt like we would never get done and that we would be stuck in the smithy forever. Both me and Johan are very passionate about our work. And when we have a very strong goal and a strong feeling of what we want to do, there's just no stopping us. We are not afraid of working really hard as long as we feel passion for it and feel that it's meaningful. But already now it feels a lot easier since we begin to see an end of these intense months with so much work. We are soon done designing our new collection, and we have some really exciting plans and visions for the future regarding our jewelry making. So all this hard work has definitely been worth it. And now it's only 1.5 months left until we move to our new house and get some more space. Then we don't need to have the smithy in our living room anymore. More space will make everything so much easier for us.
Space.
The early spring came as a big, wonderful surprise when I needed it the most. Another thing that I love with spring is that you finally get to work with plants again. So I have spent some evenings out in the old barn to put a lot of different seeds in the soil that hopefully will grow into beautiful plants and flowers in the summer. I have always loved gardening, but now as we're gonna get the new house and the beautiful garden, it feels like a whole new level. So I have read a lot now to really get the knowledge on what plants would be perfect for our garden. And I have focused mostly on herbs and medical plants, and also flowers that are really good for butterflies and bees. Because yes, we have decided to start with beekeeping and have our own bees. And that is something I have dreamt about for so many years. But now, as we're gonna have our very own house and this beautiful garden, it feels like a perfect timing. Bees are actually so important for our planet, and I really look forward to make a paradise for them in our garden. Since we're gonna move in a couple of weeks, it is a mess in our house right now, so it's been so difficult to find a place for all these plants. I only have this one window for them, so they have to share the little glimpses of sunlight that reaches in every day. I know it's not the perfect condition for some of the plants. And I've told them that I will probably have a rough start. But if they just manage to grow into life and keep holding on these weeks, I promise I will give them the dream life of any plant. Soon we will move, and there will be plenty of space for all of us to grow. I just love to finally be able to walk freely in the forest again without the meters of snow. And just to see all the colors again, the colors of green and yellow, it's just as if I see them for the very first time. And soon, as the frozen ground has melted, I can begin to tap birch sap, which is also one of the highlights moments of the spring. It's an old myth here that says that drinking birch sap is a way of regaining all your energy after a long cold winter. And I definitely believe in that, so in May I always drink birch sap every day. I can't wait to make a video to show you how I do when I tap birch sap. The winters here are usually very long and cold and dark. And I have to admit it's a challenge for me to keep the energy during these 6 months of the year. Especially last winter was really tough. I was constantly sick and constantly freezing, and I've never felt so weak in my whole life. Now it's October and the winter is here again. But this time I want it to be different. I don't want to let another winter drain me of energy and happiness because of these cold and dark months. And the only way to really do so is to face it and change the way I feel and think about it. To not see it as my enemy, but my friend. It's like if you're jealous of someone, the feeling can eat you up from within. And the only way to really heal it is to walk straight up to that person you're jealous of and be honest. And tell them how much you actually admire them and what they do, and how great you think they are. In the same second as you do that, you become free, because you let go of what drains you, because you don't let it control you anymore. And that's how I feel with this winter. I don't want the cold to control me. I don't want the winter to drain me of energy. Instead, I want the cold to be a source of power. I want the winter to awaken my soul and make me feel alive. And to do so, I need to face it. I need to accept it with my whole being. And I don't want to fight it. I want to surrender. To see that I'm stronger than I think. And to prove to myself that life truly begins outside our comfort zone. Because when I think about it, when do I feel most alive? Is it when I'm warm and comfy lying in my bed scrolling on Instagram? No, I feel 1,000 times more alive when walking into ice-cold water. And I can feel the blood rushing through my body, doing all it can to keep me alive. And in that moment, I'm totally present. There's no tomorrow, there's no past. Just now. And I think that's one of the best feelings one can ever feel. I'm ready for winter. Hi there, this is Jonna Jinton speaking. So I've been working on a painting the last 2 months. I have spent many days and nights in my studio, painting new layers and just exploring the world of colors. I was inspired by the northern mountains, the cold winds, the first snow and the sound of ice, something that I love to find inspiration from when I paint. In the end process I added blades of 23 karat gold. I wanted it to be a symbol for that even in the coldest of winds, there can be moons of gold and rays of hope. It turned into a big acrylic painting and I gave it the name Golden Winds, and a white wooden frame made of Swedish pine tree. Just like many other artists, I've always struggled with setting a price on my paintings. So this time, instead of just put it up for sale on my webshop, I decided to put it up for auction on eBay. Starting today, the 28th of September, until next week, the 5th of October. And the starting price is $1. If you are interested and want to have more information about the painting, please check the link in the text attached to this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have you ever wondered why the Swedish people are so strong and resistant and so full of inner peace and harmony? Well, let me tell you our secret. Every summer, we practice the art of mosquito meditation. If you ever come to Sweden, you should try this delightful way of mindfulness practice. And it's all free. I can assure you that this is the best way to learn how to deal with annoying and distracting things happening in your life. And how to stay sane when life just feels itchy. Welcome to Sweden, the land of inner peace and harmony. My name is Jonna Jinton. I'm a Swedish photographer and artist, and I'm gonna tell you the story of my journey. I took the most important decision of my life in 2010. I decided to leave my life in my hometown Gothenburg. I left the apartment and quit the studies. My heart was longing for something else. Nature and silence. I moved to this place, Grundtjärn, a little village with 10 inhabitants in the north of Sweden. A village where I have my roots since 12 generations back. So actually, it was like coming home. When I first came here, I had no plan, no money and no job. But I had a dream. I wanted to find a way to make a living so that I could stay at this beautiful place that felt like home in my heart. The first years in Grundtjärn was very challenging. Long cold winters, a constant worry about money, and an old house where it was a full-time job just to keep warm. A time when my limits were constantly tested. But during this time, I found my passion in life. I started with photography and filming and writing, and I started a little blog so I could share moments of my new life and express my love for nature in photos and words. And I also bought a dog, Nanok, that became my best friend ever. Living so close to nature awakened something in me. I felt an urge to create. And it became my biggest passion to continue creating and moving people with my art. It's now been 8 years since I moved, and I still live here, in my little house under the northern lights. From here, I run my own business, Jonna Jinton Sweden, where my mother Anita is employed as an administrator. I spend my days doing photography, filming, creating music, painting, writing, and all the things that my heart wants to express. And through all my social media channels, I reach over 1 million people every week. I live together with Johan, my soon-to-be husband, and recently he started working full-time as a silversmith in our own jewelry brand. And I still have my fellow friend Nanok, and 2 cats, and a cow, whose name is Stjärna, which means star in Swedish. And still, my wish is to give something beautiful to this world. Something that breaks through our barriers and reaches the soul. And one of my photos will now be sold worldwide as a canvas on IKEA. The photo was taken just some minutes from where I live, an early morning in October, from an old bridge that my grandfather built 80 years ago. One of all the magical moments that I've got to experience during my years here. I have learned so much during these years. Most of all, that feeling grateful for the small things in life is the key to the big things, and that it's only we, ourselves, that sets the limits of what is possible and not. And to have patience and never give up. And never be afraid of losing your feet on the ground, 'cause sometimes that can be the best thing you will ever do.